Well, I see with a lot of business owners is they're completely unfunded. And so we may have a declared path in the event of death, disability, or retirement, but is there an actual funding mechanism to execute that? So we got to make sure that those are in place. Hi, this is Jeff Hammer, helping people use their finances in alignment with their goals to build a life of impact. I want you to know that you nailed it. Part of what I find is most founders don't lose value in the deal, they lose it in the details. And so I've seen some brilliant exits unravel just because of 3 avoidable mistakes. And if you're not thinking past the payout, then you're already at risk. And to start with those 3 most common mistakes, what I see are the first one is going to be when folks are focusing on inaccurate or incomplete valuations. The founders are chasing the headline number, but they don't understand how the deal structure works and how that's going to affect value, where they may be able to command a premium for some of the differentials that set their business apart. The second mistake I see is going to be the lack of tax forecasting. And many underestimate how much of their exit is going to be lost to taxes, and they realize it too late when it's past the point of being able to be adjusted. So we want to look at that well in advance of a deal announcement to say, what are your preferred ways of exit? How do we mitigate that tax exposure? And then mistake number 3 is there is no plan for what comes after. And when folks exit the business, they haven't abandoned their purpose in life, but they may feel that loss of identity. And so now where do we go from here? Again, there's only so many times you can clean the pool, so many times you can play golf. What's going to be next? Are you going to pour into that next venture, that next philanthropic pursuit? What is going to be next for you? And we want to do that because otherwise regret is what creeps in after the exit. A great exit isn't just a transaction, it's a transformation, and it starts with a plan. And there's going to be a roadmap that we take a look at and how we can exit with clarity, wealth, and legacy. And most exits, when they end at the handshake, we actually look at it differently. That's when our planning is really starting to begin in its next stage. And so we created the Smart Exit Framework. It's a 3-phase roadmap, and I've used with dozens of founders to help them exit with that clarity, wealth, and legacy. Phase 1, when we look at that, phase 1 is going to be the foundation and the readiness of starting with clarity on your goals. So what is your timeline? Who are the stakeholders that need to be involved and engaged and need to be represented to make sure they get their fair value? What kind of cap table cleanup is needed? What kind of governance structures are in place? What contracts are in place? Got to understand all of that to make sure that the foundation is set. Then as we go from the foundation to that next tier, we're really looking at what is the wealth strategy and planning position. And this is where we want to engage the extended team members. So who on the tax team, the legal team, the accounting, the financial teams needs to be engaged early to make sure that this is a funded exit, whether it's planned or whether it's unplanned. We want to use tools like qualified small business stock, trust, gifting, and contingency planning. And we also want to start shaping that founder narrative because people are buying the story of the business as much as they are buying the business itself. And we want to prep those deal materials accordingly. And then step 3 is really going to be around what is that post-exit legacy and vision. So as we do that, we want to design what is going to happen after the handshake. And we want to map the next chapter. We want that to be concrete. We want it to define what is your legacy going to be. And then what does that support ecosystem need to be around you that is going to help you thrive in all those dimensions that make you who you are? Personally, professionally, spiritually. How does that play out? And what does that look like? We got to define that so we know where we're going. Before you exit your business, ask yourself, are you truly ready or are you just hoping it's going to work out? What we find is most founders think they're prepared until they see this checklist. And if you haven't mapped out every exit path, then you're not planning, you're gambling. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to go head to the West Coast. I know it's this way, so I'm taking a right out of the driveway. And I hope I get there. We want to make sure you actually have a GPS that gets you from here to there. So when I work with founders, I ask a few key questions to see where they are at that exit planning strategy. And we take a look at, have you reviewed your equity structure in the past 12 months? Do you have a clear succession or liquidity roadmap? Are all your exit roadmaps and paths identified? And that may include things such as if you get the favorable offer, if you have a challenging takeover, if there's a retirement where we're parting ways at different time frames with key business partners. What happens if there's a death or a disability? What happens in the event that the key stakeholder or key owner is no longer in play and can no longer articulate their wishes? What happens in the event of a divorce? If folks are going to fight over the house and other things, they're going to fight over the business. So how do we insulate the business accordingly? Or let's say if there's a financial hardship or some type of an ethical issue with a key member of the business. how do we insulate against that and design that exit strategy. In addition to that, it's not only enough to declare that these are our paths, but what I see with a lot of business owners is they're completely unfunded. And so we may have a declared path in the event of death, disability, or retirement, but is there an actual funding mechanism to execute that? So we got to make sure that those are in place. And then we also want to make sure that the tax and the legal team is engaged early so they know what's going on. There's a lot of things that can be done to prevent you from getting boxed into a tax corner early on, but they need to know early, and how do we coordinate that? And then also, do you understand what your net tax proceeds are going to be? And so on that after-tax basis, what are you actually going to clear? What does that enable for you and your family? Another question I ask is, have you modeled your post-exit lifestyle and goals? Again, what does that look like? And do you know what legacy you want to leave behind? What's going to define you and the lineage that you represent? And so as we go through that list of questions, if the founder answers not yet to any of these, then first of all, you're not alone. It is one of those things where we want to walk through that, and now's the time to start, because we don't know exactly when that great offer may come or when that challenged exit may come. But we got to make sure that you have a funded exit, because for many founders, this is the largest asset that they have. The exit isn't the finish line. It's the starting point of the life you've been building toward. And as liquidity fades, legacy is what's going to last if you design it with intention. You've scaled a business with purpose, and now it's time to scale a life that reflects that. So here's the truth. The valuation hype is going to fade, the taxes are going to bite, and the purpose just doesn't magically appear post-exit. So that's why I help founders design their post-exit life with the same clarity and intention that they brought to their business ventures. Whether it's mentoring, whether it's philanthropy, the second chapter venture, or simply spending more time with family, your legacy deserves the intention, because smart exits aren't just about the liquidity. They're about alignment. And if we get those things in alignment, things move much more easily with less friction. So if you're ready to exit with clarity and not just cash, build that roadmap together, because smart exits don't happen by accident. They start with one intentional step. And you've built something incredible, and now it's time to make sure that your exit honors that, because smart exits are built, they're not guessed. And if this resonated with you, download the Smart Exit Framework, DM me on LinkedIn, or let's schedule a time to talk. Let's map your exit with intention.